Welcome to the Napa Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Jay Lang, the spiritual director of this center. We are an inclusive community for spiritual growth and compassionate action. Come on in for one of our recent services. Right now there's fires in far northern California. There's floods and water problems in different areas of this nation and the world. And the truth is, we can't do everything the world needs. We can't physically do that. You know, we can have prayers for areas of conflict or concern. We send light and love to them, but we can't physically do everything the world needs. But the world needs everything we can do. Every step we can take to. And part of that is just a consciousness, a universal consciousness, like Laura was talking about, of oneness, and knowing that. And then mindfully we take action. We take it with a sense of guidance, a sense of openness, a sense of willingness to do what we can do. Now, it's sometimes that action, just like Laura and her, first of all, I appreciate your service to the county and to us personally, and I know it was a hard time, traumatic. And I know a lot of first responders and nurses and teachers even, restaurant workers. I mean, we were all affected by that. And so we can be disheartened, we can be disappointed, we can feel like we don't make a difference. And as Mother Teresa said, be kind, love anyway, open your heart anyway. And this is what I would call the path of forgiveness, the path of healing. So I'm excited about today's message that talking about the seeds of healing. And what I mean by that is, just last week I did a Mythbuster talk, right? And so I said that there is no form of spirit out there. But there is a creative intelligence that doesn't have form or gender or place, nowhere yet everywhere, and it is guiding us. So it's not somebody out there who's guiding us, but something within ourselves that's connected to this creative intelligence that guides us towards areas where we might need healing, or where healing is opening up, or a way to express our spiritual magnificence in even greater ways. There's nothing wrong with us. We are perfect and complete right where we are. And sometimes there's something in us, and it could be hidden from us, it could be invisible, but we all have had experiences, some big losses, toxic workplaces, breakups, divorces, situations, our physical conditions, things in our life where we have lost someone or something. And even if we have grieved it at the time, or perhaps we postponed that grief because we couldn't deal with it at that time, there's levels of grief, levels of healing. And when we're open to Spirit, it'll reveal to us that which is seeking to be brought to light again, brought to the surface. That which we've left hidden or weren't ready to deal with comes up. And if we're still not ready to deal with it, that's okay too. It will continue to subtly nudge us, to subtly encourage us to do the forgiveness work, to do the healing work. And when I'm talking about healing, I'm talking about healing in body, mind, heart, and soul on all aspects. And when healing is not always a cure for our physical situations. And I know some very conscious, mindful, heartfelt people who still have a chronic condition, or they're struggling with chronic pain. And it's not that they didn't do their prayers enough, or they didn't believe enough, or they didn't do, and what I also know is there's healing that can happen on emotional, spiritual levels, even if the cure doesn't happen. And I also know that there are often, very often, cures that happen too. Tumors that shrink, conditions that were once diagnosed that disappeared, things slowly or sometimes quickly get better in terms of our symptoms. And it certainly helps that we do our spiritual work, that we can feel this mental equivalent of healing within us. And that's why I want to talk about the seeds of healing, because I believe the seeds that are within us that we plant grow. And first, what happens in consciousness, in our forgiveness work, manifest in our physical body. It does work when we work it. And so we just allow what is, we accept it, we acknowledge it, we're aware of it. We do the forgiveness work or the healing work that we need to do, and then we choose that which we want to experience. We choose again. What I know is that some situations in my life they're small losses. They're small molehills, if you want to call them that. And then there's some that are mountains. And the mountains are the ones that are harder to shift because they're mountains. To move a mountain takes a lot of work. Sometimes it's one spoonful at a time, but I have seen mountains disappear for people. I've also noticed in my own life some molehills I have that I've made into mountains because of my worry or fear or avoidance, procrastination, different ways. So that's why we want to keep as current as possible, keep open to what that is coming forth. Carolyn Meese, the mystic and writer, says that the soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. I know when I quiet my mind and I'm willing to pay attention, I am led towards healing. I'm led towards what to let go of, what to release, what to be willing to feel, to be present with in my life. I know that some of the work that I've done in my healing is like a soul retrieval. It's really deep work, really deep work. And it's taken time and a process. Other things, it's like, I'm still holding on to that. Okay, it's gone. So there's different levels of healing. I remember when I lived in Texas and I was involved in a spiritual community and I for a couple of years. And it was like a new age kind of meditation and group therapy kind of thing. And I became aware through a process that it was a very harmful place. It was hurtful, it was toxic. And so I left there and actually moved out to California and lived in Oakland for a while. It was like a breath of fresh air. And then something inside of me, I was just renting, it was just temporary living there, but something inside of me led me to go back to Texas, and all of me was resisting it because I didn't want to go back to that situation, to that harm, that where I felt that hurt that I felt, but something really, and so I was aware I could be some unhealed part of myself wanted to go back into a toxic relationship with these people. So I kept aware of that, but I did visit that community again. I moved back to Texas, visited that community, and I became clear on that their manipulation no longer had a hold on me, and I became more powerful through it. That I knew I was in. I wasn't a victim, and I had the ability to choose again. And so sometimes that healing process is confusing, but we want to be wary because we don't want to go back into a dysfunctional relationship just because sometimes our mind can lead us go back to something that's comfortable. So just awareness, this mindfulness is really important. And then after being in Texas for about a year and a half, I moved to Colorado and I started a life there with my family, and it was wonderful. It was lots of fresh air there. So I could breathe that and continue that healing process. Just going back helped me with the healing process, but it's confusing sometimes that we do that. But we can always choose. Again, Gabrielle Bernstein, that we've been talking about in a class I'm teaching, mental equivalence, talked about that you notice any patterns you have, forgive yourself, forgive your thoughts, let go, and choose again. So anytime you find yourself in a situation that it feels very familiar, or you're re-traumatizing yourself because of a choice you made, or re-choosing something that was harmful, just notice it. Don't get caught into feeling bad about it or punishing yourself. Forgive yourself and choose again. And it moves us toward this healing, of this revelation of wholeness, and just this health of body, mind, spirit, and soul. And this month, what we're going to do is we're going to take this movie, Avatar, and talk about it as a metaphor for thinking globally and acting locally. And I will let you know, today we're just going to talk about the introduction to the movie. But by the end of this month, I will definitely be doing spoiler alert. So I will be telling you the whole movie. So take advantage to come this Friday to watch the movie, or to rent it on your own and watch it, unless you don't care if I spoil the whole thing for you. But it's really one of those movies that's very magical. James Cameron, who did Titanic and many other movies, doesn't do little movies. In fact, he had the vision for this movie over 20 years ago, probably 30 years ago by now, because it was released 10 years ago. But the technology, the movie technology, wasn't available for the movie he wanted to create. He had to wait till 10 years ago before it had the right kind of technology. It is science fiction. It's supposed to be in 2154, so about 130 years from now. And it's also a little scary, because there's a possibility we could be where this movie is at in 2154. So basically, all the Earth's natural resources have been depleted because of our insistence on thinking we have dominion over those resources. And you can see that playing out from thousands of years ago till now. I mean, it started with spices and gold and oil and diamonds and countless other resources. I don't know if you know the newest resource that's become a huge commodity is cobalt. Does anybody know why cobalt is important? It goes in electric car batteries. So, and guess what? Those mines are in Africa, most of them. So that's the newest thing, where low-waged people are doing the mining, and the corporations and larger countries are profiting from them. So in the future, 2154, according to the movie, we have depleted all the resources on this planet. So what do? We go to other planets, right? And start exploiting them. So there's a planet called Pandora that's a moon in the Alpha Centaurus star system. It's inhabited by the Na'vi, a 10-foot tall, blue-skinned, human-like being that lives in harmony with nature. And last week we talked a little bit about panentheism. They are panentheistic. They're nature-based. They believe in a higher power that they call Awa, and that is their supreme being, who they believe they are part of. They are one with us, and it is more than them. It sounds familiar, right? So that we believe we are God, but we are so much more, and that's why we love this. I love this movie so much. And this deity continues to guide them in everything they do. So, and then there's a main character, Jake Sully, who's shown here, who has an interesting recurring dream of flying. And then he says, it's a beautiful dream, and then he wakes up. And he wakes up to his life on Earth that is a decimated planet. He's in a wheelchair. He was a soldier, presumably from an accident or a conflict that he was injured in. And he, even on his soldier's pay, can't afford the surgery. That is, it's possible that he could walk again, but can't afford the surgery. So he is seeking healing from the very beginning of the movie. And then his identical twin brother dies. And so he's in another loss now. But it also gives him an opportunity because his brother was involved in part of a science group, anthropologists and scientists that were on this movie, on this planet Pandora, who were able to take these hybrids of human and Navi DNA bodies and enter them through a cryoprocess kind of thing. And they were going and actually going into the native villages and talking to them and learning about them from a scientific point of view. So his brother was one of those people. So they recruited him to be there because his brother had died and he had the same DNA, so he could be part of this group. And so he wasn't a scientist, he was a soldier, he was a warrior, but he had this chance that he could make the money to be able to walk again because he could afford the surgery. So right away it was self-serving what he did, but he found so much more because I believe, it's a movie, it's fiction, but it just seems like through the whole movie that he's being led towards healing on a physical, emotional, spiritual, soul, and heart level, on all levels. So today as we explore this, I want you to think about for yourself how you reveal, how do you know when healing is being sought within you? And how do you know what is right action and what is back to dysfunctional behavior or back to being re-traumatized? And right now, what is this divine creative intelligence we're talking about guiding us? So we're talking about these seeds of freedom, seeds of healing, and I believe they guide us towards freedom. So as I said, Jake Sully from the beginning was seeking freedom. He had this dream of flying, and probably not in his dream, but in his mind, walking again. But we all have certain kinds of injuries, whether they're invisible, hidden to other people that we might keep closed in, or maybe they're even hidden from ourselves about our unforgiveness, our feeling of lack or unworthiness. And Spirit is always not only healing, but seeking to have you let go of those things, to forgive those things, to heal those things so you can be in your spiritual magnificence. But Jake Sully was definitely conflicted, and he wanted this experience of being free. So he traveled. It took 6 years to get to Pandora. He was in some sort of a cryo sleep kind of thing. So many light years away, got to this planet, and he shows up. And not sure what he's getting into, doesn't understand because he hasn't been part of the science team. But he's able to go through the process of being able to live, be alive through this 10-foot creature, this the naive, the hybrid that was a human hybrid mix. And so he found some freedom. This is him when the first day he's in this big body. He's still, wearing his hospital gown because he's just been in this in a hospital setting where he's trying on the suit basically, and he finds his freedom here. You can see him a little clumsy, but he's moving his body. And he's getting more and more confidence, feeling that, and just being able to walk again was amazing him. The freedom he felt in moving and faster and being able to go around obstacles and things like that and just moving forward because he was physically fit. He was a soldier before he was injured. And this is him in the chamber where and then he stops and just feels his body, is grounded, feels his feet, feels the earth again. So he finds his freedom. And what I'd like to say is that we can all feel this groundedness, this this freedom, this beauty by allowing Spirit to come through us, to guide us, to inform us, to be present. And the other beautiful thing about, so then he went to, in a few days as he began to understand this new body he was in, that would be just for 6 to 8 hours at a time, and then he'd go back to his human body, so it couldn't be permanent. But he was also where he got into trouble and was saved by one of the tribes. Her name is Neytiri, and she first of all wanted him to go away, just helped him survive, but then said that sky people is what the natives, the people called humans, sky people, but they also called them sleepwalkers or something like that. I can't remember the title right now. The people that were not real of the naive tribe. So she didn't want anything to do with him. But then this happened, and this is where my title came from, about seeds of healing, because these little light beans are from a healing tree, and they're seen flying around, but they never do this kind of thing. That they're actually landing on him, they're guided towards him, this light, this what I would call a seed, what might also be called an angel or a messenger. And Neytiri is just in awe that this happened, because he is a sky person. He's a sleepwalker. This shouldn't be happening. The Spirit is happening to him. But it was so much a miracle in her mind that she took him back. And they didn't let skywalkers go into, or sky people, sleepwalkers, go into the deep part of their community. But she took him back because she saw it as a sign. And what's amazing about this is that there was some divine things going on here, according to the movie. There was some synchronicity going on that opened up this pathway of healing for all people that we know. And so what also we know about this is that the divine seeds of healing reveal health and wholeness. That Neytiri was a guide for Jake Sully, but she also was a guide for herself, leading him through the jungle, through the light, through where he did learn to fly, connect with a dragon. And they have these amazing tails, kind of a hair long braid that connects with life in different ways, that connects with healing. And so she led him through. And what I also know is these divine seeds of healing lead us home. And what I mean by home is this heart, our connection with our heart, with Spirit, with oneness, and with a community of people that you're connected with, that you can feel at home with, that all parts of you are accepted, that you don't have to leave part of you outside or anywhere, that you can come with all of you, all of that. You maybe parts you feel broken at times, or part of you that's a very deep spiritual being, part of you that is anxious about things, and the part of you that wants to learn how to love more and be at peace more. All aspects of you. This week, I came across, I started reading a new book by Dr. Thema Bryant Davis. And she wrote a book called Homecoming, Overcoming Fear and Trauma to Reclaim Your Whole Authentic Self. Now, she's a psychologist, renowned psychologist. She's president-elect of the American Psychology Association. She was also the daughter of a minister. And so she believes in church community, and she also advocates for mental health. But this book is really amazing because it talks about her own personal journey of healing, after sexual assault and racism. And she also tells stories with the permission of some of her clients and the stories they have and the multiple layers of grief that they have, that they experience. The little losses and the big losses. And what she says in her book that I really like is to pay attention to the patterns and remember that the ways you learn to survive may not be the ways you want to continue to live, heal, and shift. That there are new ways we adapted during the pandemic, for instance. And those experiences affect us, but they don't define us. Our wellness and authenticity are actually where we are at home. So we think that safety might be not being real or hiding from others, but really our true home is where we can be and where we're willing to be healthy, whole, authentic, and open to spirit. What I find about her work is it sounds very similar to Gabrielle Bernstein, very similar to what we talk about here, that we just notice patterns we have, we forgive ourselves, we let go, and we choose again. We choose health, we choose wellness, we choose authenticity, we choose willingness. And her particular background is in Christianity, and I know that sometimes I talk about concerns I have about interpretations of the Bible and different things, but I want to be clear that I believe that Christianity is a true path. It's not the only true path. There are many true paths there. And the way we know our own true path is to be connected and harmonized with life itself, with spirit that opens us up and allows us to know the truth of who we are. She says self-care in our healing process is essential, but so is community. That we need to be intentionally nourishing ourselves, but also intentional about the nourishing that takes place in a relationship and in community. She talked about in the Bible, about in the Old Testament, in the Torah, that the synagogues, the temples had an inner temple and an outer temple. And she said that's like our relationships. Our inner temple is reserved for those people who are willing to listen, who are willing to hold our development, our evolution, that we don't have to have things figured out all the time, that we could come with our raw feelings and exploration and concerns and worries, and it can be heard right where it is without judgment or criticism. And then we have an outer temple, an outer area where we have lots of different friends, and some of those friends come into our inner temple with us. But whatever, we always have spirit in our inner temple. We always have this guidance. And we can always come home to a greater truth of who we are. I wanted you to pull out, if you didn't get one of the green cards coming in, raise your hand, and we have some more of those. Did anybody not get a green card? We have one up here. Well, she'll come up in just a minute. But this is up front here. This is a poem, I guess you would call it, or I would call it affirmations, more like, that Dr. Thema Davis wrote. And what she said in her book is, she said, if these words don't work, change them for what works for you. And that's the important thing about it, is it's meant to be a blessing, an affirmation, even call it a prayer. What I love the way she talked about prayer was that that most people's prayers are about a petition or asking or invitation, which she says is okay. She's not judging that, but she said we also need to leave room for receptive prayer, a quiet prayer, a listening prayer, a receiving from Spirit. And I think that's an important part of what we teach, that we not only pray, but we allow some silence. And I think that's important in this kind of, my hopes is you take this home and use this. Like I said, change the words as you need to. But I kind of want to read through this together. So I will read the first one. I'd like you just to repeat it after I say it the first time. So here's the first one. I am blessed from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. Thank you for watching today. If you would like more information about us, scan the QR code or go to nvcsl.org, or join us on Sundays at 10:30. Live music, great messages, and a beautiful community. All are welcome.